You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Welcome everyone back to a live edition on time on the right day of Global Trade This Week, brought to you by Cap Logistics. Doug, it's great to see you. I am Pete Mento, Trade Geek Podcast, and with me is my partner in crime, Mr. Doug Draper. Doug, how are you, buddy?
I am, I'm doing great on this Monday. Spring has sprung in Colorado, and it's blue skies, and things are looking up. And as far as, I don't know if I'd call it abuse, but, at the World Trade Day last week on Thursday and Friday here in Denver, you had the closing, I wouldn't say arguments, the closing comments, and I appreciate the banter that you had with my wonderful Hawaiian shirt and Troy's hat.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think more than anything, Doug, it really was a love letter. If you were reading it, what I said is that I finally found a partner. 2020 was awful, but one of the highlights was getting to work with you. For people who did not see it, Karen, who runs the World Trade Center in Denver, which actually is one of the sponsors of my podcast, had asked me if I could do 15 minutes of material to end the World Trade Day. She did not say it had to be clean. It was implied when she asked me that, but she didn't say it specifically. So you want to talk about trust. Fortunately for her, I would never put her job in jeopardy. So it was 15 minutes of trade and economics and logistics based. But I did poke fun at some local celebrities like Doug in Colorado. And I had a good time. But the last slide was me pointing out how much I do love working with Doug and how much fun I've had doing this show. And Doug, unfortunately, didn't get to watch it live because he was doing his job. So he did get to watch the recording moments later, and I'm glad he did because I would have been so upset if you missed me bragging on you in front of everybody at World Trade Day. That would have been a little upsetting, though.
No, it was good. Well, the people didn't turn in to hear us compliment each other, but it has been fun working with you in the last year. Who thought?
I think they did.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah. But, without further ado, why don't we just get at it, Doug? So why don't you hit me with topic number one for this week?
Yeah. I like this one. This popped, we talked about where do you get all your ideas? And I said between the weekend and early mornings, my email box just pops with all kinds of industry rag stuff. And I saw this one over the weekend, and I was just perusing it, and I had one of those, wait, what? Moments, and I dove into it a little bit more. And this is what caught my eye, Pete. I'm big about reading things at times to make my point. So I think I found my new job because here's what it entails. These are the skill set that you need. And I will be protecting, here's where we go. Number one, protecting the country's most important military secrets. I'm going to coordinate with law enforcement to investigate terrorism. I'm going to potentially use deadly force to prevent theft, sabotage, and takeover by unauthorized persons. And I am going to obtain top secret security clearance, Pete. I'm totally stoked. And my title is going to be a nuclear materials courier. What do you think of that?
I think it sounds like a pretty crazy job, man.
Well, let me cut to the chase. It's a truck driver that starts at $52,000 a year. So I love all the stuff, but that in a nutshell is the microcosm of the perception of the American truck driver, in the sense that you hype up all these. Who the heck would pay somebody $52,000 to have all of those responsibilities? And this truck driver, hauls, literally, their job is to haul nuclear material across the country. So their cargo and their payload is like unbelievably important. But to throw an insult in and say, look at all this cool stuff, potentially using deadly force to prevent theft, coordinate with law enforcement, protecting the country's most important military secrets. In exchange for that, we're going to pay you $50,000. That is exactly the problem with our trucking industry right now. They talk about the truck driver shortages and poor pay, and they want better benefits and they want a better lifestyle. Here's the bottom line. Until we start respecting the truck drivers, have empathy for what they do every single day, and not insult them with a high-powered job description with a pay scale that is not compensatory to what they're selling, we are going to continue to have a perpetual problem with our truck driving and the movement of goods across the country. Because if you're consuming it, eating it, experiencing it, probably a truck delivered it. And so this just kind of caught my attention about how crazy it is out there in the truck driving world, and the perception that people put on it and the stigma, even with all these cool, incredible job responsibilities. So I'm not really sure what my point is here. My point really, I guess, is we have to respect truck drivers a little bit more, show empathy for their cause, and really, take this thing to the next level, because these guys are super important, these guys and gals, and we need to do more. There you go.
Yeah, I use the word scarcity a lot on the show, and it's because I don't think people really understand it. Not only as an economic term, but just as a fact of life, a way of life. We have a scarcity of drivers. We have a scarcity of drivers because it is a pretty brutal job, especially the long haul guys. The ones that we're having a real hard time finding, being away from home, dealing in that environment, doing that job, which is demanding. It may not seem like it to people, but maintaining your focus, driving a truck like that, doing the work that's expected of you, and doing it day in and day out, it is not easy to do, and under those conditions. And doing a job that people generally in our society look down on. It's strange, And gone are the days when it was an outlet of sorts for hardworking Americans who saw it as a method of rising in the workforce, being owner-operators, owning a large business of their own, because of the brokers. The brokers are now sort of that conduit between the shipper and the driver. So it's not what it used to be. I was mentioning before we started today that I spent some time this weekend speaking to, pretty brilliant economist. I hate to admit it because it's my girlfriend's sister's boyfriend, but whatever. Husband. And he's a gifted economist. And speaking with him, we were talking about the idea of automated driverless trucks and how we're really uncomfortable with that idea. If people don't go into this business, and the ones that do can demand higher and higher pay to do it, there's going to come a price where the price of automation isn't that much more expensive than the price of having someone behind the wheel of that truck. And the cost of automation over time is going to be less expensive. And we're going to find ourselves in a fully automated world rather than having drivers behind the wheel. And now we can have an argument about whether or not in the end that's better for society and better for transportation. But there always is going to be a need for that skill set, whether it's for the defense world, et cetera. But we look at all these other areas where automation is taken over because of a lack of respect for those workers. Meat processing, agriculture, munitions. I can go into a long line of it where we've ended up needing to bring back people into that world because of dangers, because of the coronavirus, as an example. We have a chicken shortage right now because people don't want to work in meat processing plants. So it's a real problem, Doug. And you hit thing right on the nose when you said it comes down to respect. When are we going to learn to respect the people on the roads that are driving everything everywhere that we just can't stop?
Yeah, it's. I could go on for a long time on this one, so I don't want to banter back and forth. But it's a passion, right?
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. That's another part of this. Is it seems to be only people that are embedded in the industry and have had a lot of education on it from the driver's side that seem to finally say, "I get it now. I understand now." You're going in places that don't have bathrooms, going in places that make you wait for hours, sitting for half your day waiting to get across a border, and you're getting paid by the trip, or you're getting paid by this or that. You're only making money when you're moving, and these guys aren't necessarily moving because people don't understand what they're going through. So it really comes down.
If the wheels ain't turning, you ain't earning. That's one of them I've heard.
Right.
So
right.
All right, Pete, I'm throwing it over to you. What you got?
Yeah, my first topic is pretty lame in comparison, unfortunately, but it's one we got to talk about. One of the big areas of the USMCA, the new NAFTA, as it were, was the negotiations between Mexico and the US and Canada concerning dairy and what we were going to do to force Canada to allow us to finally sell dairy. In this instance, it's mostly butter, yogurt, and milk. And that is both in its freshest form and eggs, as well as powdered for reconstitution in Canada. Canada has done an excellent job of putting everything from quotas, which means you can only sell so much and you can't sell any more, to very high tariffs on American dairy into Canada. So when President Trump really pushed Canada hard to renegotiate the USMCA, one of the things that he was extremely successful with was forcing Canada to drop many of these protections in USMCA. Well, lo and behold, we're looking now, a few years into the renegotiated program, what we're seeing is that Canada has not lived up to this. So today, a few hours ago, representatives from the American Dairy Association have come right out and asked the United States Trade Representative to file actions against the Canadians for their lack of adherence to these rules. As an industry, farming is extremely important in the United States. It's very powerful. They really do push the needle in Congress and in the Senate. And I think you're going to find this is probably going to end up being, and we talked about labor not too long ago with regards to automotive. This is going to be one that's going to get a lot of traction very quickly across party lines. It's not going to matter, Democrats, Republicans, whoever it is. The Canadians are going to have to do something about this, and it is not going to be popular because Canada is also very proud of its dairy farming. But unfortunately for Canada, America tends to make more of it, much more inexpensive, and also at a higher quality than Canadian dairy products. So this is a tough one, Doug, and I think it's going to cause a real Donnybrook between ourselves.
So one thing that
when
you shot this over to me a little bit ago, I couldn't find any teeth or meat in it. Like, what's the, it's, so the feedback that I read about was, we don't like it. And there didn't seem to be any teeth in the USMCA to do anything about it. There's some stern letters that will be written, some people raising their hands saying how it's unfair. It's not the intent. They're not following along. There'll probably be some sort of arbitration, yada, yada, yada. And something will come out of it sometime down the road, right? So I don't think that it's great, right? Both countries are proud in farming, dairy, and otherwise. But what the hell are we going to do about it, right? I mean, there is no hammer that can be thrown down. It's a trade agreement between three nations. We all want to, work together. So you can't be a jerk about it. But I don't know what's the, I wouldn't say resolution, but other than sitting down and talking more about it, which is going to defer it, delay it, and we could be talking about it for months, years, whatever. Maybe it was an oversight in the setup to say, what's the punitive result of not following the USMCA for this particular talking point? I couldn't find it in the research I did, Pete. I don't know if it's there or not.
What will happen is they'll what I like to always joke as the Minnesotan middle finger, which is they will write a very stern letter. We will write a very stern letter, and then the Canadians will write a very stern letter back. At which point we will all sit down, and there will be no fine or penalty, or there'll be no hell to pay for the past. But what will end up happening is the Canadians will end up having to do something to follow the rule of the law.
Right.
Unlike the labor situation where there are written penalties, this is a place where they're just going to have to play by the rules, because if they don't, then there'll be things non-tariff that the U.S. will do to get nasty about it. This is one the Canadians aren't going to play with, because it could put everything else into jeopardy with their their automotive manufacturing and others. They're dragging their feet on it because it's in their best interest to drag their feet on it until they get called on it. Now they're getting called on it. They're going to keep dragging their feet until they're forced to actually do something about it. So you're absolutely right. It's going to take a while for this thing to go someplace, but it'll get there. It's just going to take a little while. So, hey, I'm happy we're back to the days where things in my world can take years to resolve, as opposed to when we had Trump as president, where a mean tweet could turn my world upside down. That was great for business, but it definitely put some more holes in my stomach with my ulcers. So
yes.
I'll be watching.
I was going to say on our last topic,
and that brings us to
today,
halftime, Doug.
talk about tweets that can have powerful influence and reaction. I'm just going to leave it at that, and we're gonna follow up with that one. But yeah, look at that big smile on your face, man. I'm going to have to just power through.
Because I know Keenan, our Wonder Boy producer, is sitting there just like huffing and puffing, like, I wish he'd just shut his fat face up about this. Like, he's so angry right now. I love it. Yeah. I'm hoping he gets so mad that he split screens and comes back on.
Or he'll,
that would be the greatest
he'll
joy
overdub
ever.
you. Like, whatever you're saying, you
Stay
won't
tuned,
be saying.
folks.
There'll be a delay. It'll be so obvious that you're not saying it. But he's going to have a big smile on his face. Just anyway.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think he should do that. He should re-record the end of it, where he just completely replaces all my dialogue.
Well, hey, because that's a good topic, we'll cut through to my second topic and do a quick halftime. So again, one thing that caught my attention looking out over the weekend was a new approach to tracking, end-to-end visibility, specifically with e-commerce. Right, everybody out there wants to know where their stuff is at any given time. And even if it's not good news, at least they know where it is, right? Being in the logistics world, there was a time where you could say, oh, there's a storm in Ohio that's creating some delays. And whether that storm is really creating delays or not, if you look on a map, there's a storm, and so you can kind of buy yourself some time. This day and age, that doesn't work. And with the explosion of e-commerce, people want to know literally what truck is it on and where is that truck right this very second. So there's a lot of technology around trying to figure that out. And as far as tracking technology, I'll get to my point here in a second, is that the one piece that is most limited is the final mile, right? That is the one piece of all e-commerce that everybody's struggling to get their arms around, make it profitable, make it more streamlined. And so regardless of this technology, which I'll get to in a second, I think that leg of the transportation, the transportation leg is going to be the most disruptive with technology. So there'll be some other cool stuff that's going to come out that's going to give somebody visibility or make it accessible quicker or something like that. But that final mile is ripe for disruption. And so what I'm talking about is this label embedded tracking technology that AT&T and Sony have partnered with. So you literally can track your package anywhere in the world, right? So the tracking is embedded in the label. So you're not putting a little microchip in the box or putting something in the product itself. It's in the label, which is great because every single shipment has to have a label. And obviously, people want to know where their stuff is. Why does anybody care about that? As I mentioned, it's the most challenging aspect of delivery. And to be honest with you, just to cut to the chase on a business perspective, I think it's a great way for AT&T to drive more business through its network because that's the conduit of that visibility. Here's the concerns that I have, and I don't want to be Debbie Downer on it, right, is that you still need something to apply, like a label, right? You need a label. So what happens if you don't have a label? And what happens if you've promoted this technology on your website, but you can't deliver? So that's almost as bad as not having visibility. If you say you can't have visibility, I go to track, and I can't find it. The thing that's real important about that is that on Amazon and the Amazon Marketplace, which is the third-party sellers, a lot of that group is side hustle guys or people that are, just starting out. That's about 55% of all the sales on Amazon. So if I'm a guy that's selling outdoor gear in my basement because I get it from returns of another company, and I don't have the label to use that gives me that trackability, I don't know. What am I supposed to do, right? So I don't know if I can hype that service because I'm in my basement and I got to get the label from this vendor or this company or whatever. So I think it's a great technology for larger players, maybe some medical or prescription or pharmaceuticals, but the average Joe out there that's just schlepping some stuff in his basement as a side hustle until it knocks it out of the park. I don't know if it's I don't really know how that's going to take off. The other piece that I thought was funny is the press release and I got to read this, right? So the press release hyping this thing up, this is what it said. We're proud to take the leading position in revolutionizing the digital supply chain with a disruptive solution utilizing Sony's Altair low-powered cellular IFT technology based on its ALT 1250 chipset. So the question I have for you, Pete, is I don't really give a crap because I need to sell more dog beds because I got my mortgage and I'm in my basement. So it's funny to me that here's all this cool technology, but the average person in which we're buying a lot more of our stuff from could give a shit about that type of trackability. The big guys, yes. The important value cargo, yes. Pharmaceuticals, absolutely. But I don't think it's going to be this amazing transformational technology that's going to get out there. So if anybody from AT&T or Sony are listening to this one, Pete Mento told me to say all that. So there you go.
No, he did not.
That's my take.
Well, first of all, my brain is saturated with talk of track and trace. I remember how wonderful it felt back in the good old days when we went from calling up the airline and saying, when is Lufthansa flight 423 from Frankfurt due to? I remember when I was Pete at Panalpina, like that wasn't embarrassing enough, right? Like when is Swiss Air Flight 127 going to land from Zurich into Logan? We had visibility on it in like a direct terminal. Like there was one in the office, we would get faxes over, right? To now we had the internet. That's how old and pathetic I am, Doug, right? I remember all that. To now, just about everybody has apps on their phones that tell us all this stuff. And now there are everything. TAPA is riddled with incredibly brilliant people that have come up with pieces of technology, not unlike what you're talking about. They're just probably not as inexpensive. They're probably more robust too and reusable. To where we can know where something is anywhere on the globe, tell you what the temperature is inside and the relative humidity and if something was tampered with and, if someone played R&B, hip hop, or rock inside the container on its way over here. Like it's gotten insane what you can do inside of it. But the fact remains is that most consumers want it to their SKU, like they want it to their package. They don't want it on the container. They want it to their thingy. Sure. And their thingy isn't at that level where it's second to second, moment to moment. When you've got something coming to you on that Shopify app, it says that, FedEx hit it with the barcoder when it left the New London facility. And then you're in this ether until it shows up on your front porch and you hope that your dirtbag next door neighbor's 14-year-old kid doesn't steal it on his way to school, right? So this is my world, dude. Like I have a separate company, right? And we're part of a massive group called the Known Alliance. And this is one of the problems that we're dealing with. And that problem was very easily solved using technology that the precursor to the CIA developed during World War II. It's like the easiest problem in the world to fix. The issue is that everybody has to decide to fix it together. Yeah. And all these competing technologies, AT&T with their who's it, what's it, Martian 5000 RoboCop, and then you've got Verizon over here with its I don't know, Tesla 6000. They're all working on different networks and doing different things because we have no standard. And we're not doing the same thing and working off the same standard, it will ultimately all be noise. Yeah. It will all be noise. Unless you expect that driver on FedEx to have 75 different apps working on his phone to track everybody's crap. And that's unrealistic. Yeah. We have to come up with a standard. But by creating a standard, you create an opportunity for it to be hacked by cyber thieves.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And, it's... Whatever, Doug. I'm gonna have another moment like we had a few weeks ago where my head just explodes.
You know what? I could talk to you about the flowers I planted this weekend, and somehow you're going to factor in cybersecurity on that one. So I can appreciate what you're saying, but
right.
I agree 100%. Tracking nowadays can tell you where it was. It doesn't tell you where it is. And there will continue to be technology, and it will grow and it will evolve, but it will eventually come to be because I want to know where my dog bed is on a Sunday morning at 9:30 because Fido had a crappy night's sleep and he needs a good bed. So
Yeah.
it is important to me as a consumer to have that visibility.
You know Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I call it the Veruca Salt paradigm. So every American consumer now is like Veruca Salt. I want an Oompa Loompa. I want it now, Daddy. Like it's this. I want my thingy and I want it now. We as logistics professionals have made it way too easy to placate the ever growing desire of the American consumer to have something immediately, and we're our own worst enemy. Because they want to know where it is. They want to know where it is and where it is right now. And they want it as fast as possible. And we're getting real slick at it, man. And the better we get at it, there's going to come a moment where you're going to be on your phone watching this thing as it's coming down the road, like your Uber Eats. And you're just going to walk downstairs and grab it from somebody. Yep. And you're going to be yelling at the FedEx guy on FaceTime. I'm down here in front of my door. Where are you? And that's what it's going to come down to. And at that point, I hope I'm retired. Because I'm going to lose it.
Yeah. Well, Veruca Salt.
Two new people.
Veruca Salt was a pretty poor rock band as well. For anybody that may.
Oh, watch it! You better watch out, man. Yeah.
So, well, hey,
I love that.
Let's do it. This is the last one, and so the prelude to this one, Pete, is that you made mention that somebody can send a tweet and change the direction of the world. Somebody could send a tweet and change the direction of our financial world. So, Pete, I'm lobbing this one up as high as I can so you can take it. What's your second topic?
Right. So I'm not even going to bother to bury the lead. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are a scam. They are the new Ponzi scheme. They are nothing more than a great idea, which is the marketing of a brilliant concept and technology outside of modern markets. So rather than having this beautiful piece of technology that you have to buy and sell and trade in normal corporations, subject to all these SEC rules, you create this currency and you put it out in a marketplace, and now it's not regulated in the same way and whatever, right? The technology behind it is beautiful. And as a dyed-in-the-wool libertarian, I'm all about this concept, but I'm also an economist. And cryptocurrency last week failed its greatest test. And it failed it in such beautiful fashion. It went down in flames. I mean, it went down like Goose when Maverick hit the eject and smashed his head up against the cockpit. You know, it was just a bloody mess as it went into the sea. Everyone said that cryptos were going to be a hedge against inflation. They were wrong, with a capital W. And it will continue to be that way. Nothing as volatile as this can act. It's its own inflationary device at this point. How can you invest in something as a hedge against inflation that goes from being worth 50,000 against the dollar? Pick any currency you want to pick. Pick shekels. I don't care. Pick wampum if you want to. From that much down to 30,000. How can you pick something that loses 30% of its value in one day, then picks up another 10%, and drops back down again, and say that that's going to be a hedge against inflation? If that's your idea of economic stability against uncertainty, what you need to do is go back to whatever college it was that you decided to go to, that you were able to get into because of how you filled out a matchbook, and take that class over again, because clearly you missed that day. It's not a real currency. Not only that, but now you can't buy as much as you used to be able to, because now you can't buy a Tesla, whatever. I love it when I say you can't really buy anything with crypto, and people always say, well, I can buy a Tesla, dude, or I can get a car. You know what? One time when I was on a ship, I was with a bunch of guys, and I was in Africa. They bought a car with some goats. So basically, goats are just as equal a store of equity and value as crypto. The difference being here that I'm trying to make is that it's the technology behind crypto which is so valuable. And what we're doing in this market is we're speculating about the incredible inherent value of the technology, not crypto as a store of value. That in and of itself is its value. And over time, that will become more predictable. Now, on top of all of this, I spent a great deal of time last week listening to people all over DC saying that we should probably make it illegal to pay ransomware demands in crypto because the FBI and other federal law enforcement can't track people down based on the sale using OFAC, the Office of Foreign Asset Control. A move that, as a crypto guy, I 100% agree with. I absolutely do. Because if you can't pay the bad guys with it, it begins to lose its store of value. And if you begin to go through all of the instances where crypto has been tracked by OFAC, what is it going to? Human trafficking, drug sales, illegal arms sales, purchasing and selling of actual software to be used for hacking. Must I go on? It's like for every person that decides to buy and sell a Tesla, someone's out there buying ransomware.
You know what?
It's a scam.
I don't know what to say on
now,
that.
Before Keenan breaks in here, right? Because right now he's like Popeye. He's like a hippie Popeye. He's drinking, instead of spinach, he's drinking double kombuchas. And he's going to like Hulk out and tell me how wrong I am. I love the concept. I do. But it's just not there. And it's just not there because there's too much power against it. I'm sorry. It's just too volatile. There's no adult watching the pool party. Yeah. Everyone's going to drown. Well,
it's like the meme stocks, right? I mean, I will admit that I'm one of those guys, and I was not trying to be rude, but I'm going to show you that at one time, you can see that, it says $168 of Bitcoin that I own, and at one time it was 500, and it wasn't that long ago. So I get all what you're saying, but for the vast majority of people that are purchasing it, it's kind of the cool thing. Oh, Elon Musk said to buy it, so I'm going to go in and buy it, and I'm going to dollar cost average and keep moving forward. So I don't know enough about it to agree or disagree with you on that. It's not going away, I'll tell you that, and it will continue with its volatility. But at some point, it'll either go away altogether or it will create some stability. And when larger institutions start dabbling in it, which they are starting to do.
They did. And they sold all of it last week. Institutional buyers got rid of it as soon as they saw the writing on the wall. There are too many people that do math on the toilet for fun that are beginning to see exactly what this thing has to do with inflation, and they're getting the hell out. So I don't know. I feel bad for the guy that like sold 500 Bitcoins to buy a pizza 5 years ago. I do feel genuinely bad for that cat because there is going to be a moment where this stuff does flatten out, and then I don't know where that number will be. But no. I'm sorry, no. And what are there, 1,500 different cryptos right now? What's the point? It's the technology I want to see.
Well, here's the best thing about this show, Pete, is it's weekly. So that means you have like 7 days to calm back down on the crypto rant and get everything back in line. So
no, Keenan's going to make an NFT of one of my rants like this, and he's going to sell it for like $100,000 once Bitcoin is worth $1 million.
Yeah, just out of spite to prove you. So anyway, I think that we intentionally made that our last topic for the day, and Global Trade this week is officially over for the week of May 24th. Pete, we never even talked about next week because that's Labor Day. We'll have to figure out what we're going to do on that one, so everybody stay tuned. I don't know if we're going to go on a Tuesday or skip it, but Pete, we probably should have figured that out before we jumped on the air here. But keep track, everybody. Listen to the show. We'll post it whenever we drop the show later today. So again, caplogistics.com. They're the ones that make this happen. Keenan, you're phenomenal. You take a lot of heat from the man on that side of the camera, not this side. And Troy's with you 100%. So I think with that, Pete, thanks for joining me again today. Thanks for all of our listeners. Thanks to Cap Logistics for making this happen. We will catch you guys next week. See you, Pete.